I'm overwhelmed by your kindness and generosity. I'm actually humbled by all the kind words and to be in the presence of Manong Frankie, F. Shunil Jose. Palakpakan po natin. He is in his 90s. Am I at liberty to tell them how young you are, Manong Frankie? He is in his 90s and still planning to do new projects next year. Am I at liberty to tell them what you're about to launch next year? Academia Filipina. Soon, coming soon. Ombudswoman Conchita Carpio Morales braving the Christmas holiday traffic from the other side of town, being the first guest who arrived 30 minutes ahead of schedule. Thank you, ma'am, for being here. Secretary Ben Jokno, amidst all the deadlines for work, who have been working with, not just in the past 6 months, but in the past years, who taught me how to do the budget and do it well, who incidentally is also a supporter, a firm supporter of Philippine arts and culture. Secretary Ben, thank you for being here. Senator Serge Osmeña, we miss you in the Senate, but you are returning soon. Thank you for being here. Former Senator, I saw Sunny Alvarez, the original climate change activist. And Cecile, you saw yourself in the photos. Thank you for being here as well. I am humbled to be in the presence of two national artists, Manong Frankie and Rio Almario. Thank you, Rio. Chair June, what can I say? You're not retiring. There's so much to do, not just a return next year to the Biennale, Arte, in Arsenale, but in the documentation of indigenous knowledge and the documentation of all languages with Rio Almario, the establishment of language markers, the documentation of SLTs, or the Schools of Living Tradition, both in the written, in video, in sound, and online. I can go on, and my staff are listing these things because these are homeworks which we will do in the coming years. Distinguished ambassadors, Ambassador Calvo, Ambassador Jessen, Ambassador Gordon Crique, and Deputy Ambassador Michael Klaczewski, our friends from Spain, from the EU, from Germany, and of course, from the US. I would like to thank all of you who have, Anna, for your kind words, more to come. We're looking forward to having the Hibla Textile Galleries in every national museum around the country, so people don't have to come to Manila to be able to view it. And we're looking forward to bringing our textiles to major areas, regions of the world where there are Filipinos to appreciate Philippine textiles. We're also looking forward, I was telling Serge and Ombudswoman, to seeing the collection of Jose Rizal. Did you know that Jose Rizal was a textile aficionado and a collector who collected textiles in the 1800s and bequeathed it to the person who established the Ethno Gallery in Berlin. And it is now in archives, but soon to be lent to the Philippines. I'm reminding the ambassador because he's new, so that he knows he has much work to do, so that the head of the museum will not forget us, because we worked on this since 2012. Congresswoman Alonte of Laguna is also here. Thank you, and Ambassador Grace Princesa, who was an Abaca House in the United Arab Emirates. So, I have been called many names today. I was called Siraulo by Jun Yi. He said, nakakaasar daw ako. I plead guilty and I agree. And he said it, I think, not just in jest, but to provide inspiration in an uplifting manner. I was also called diwata ng pamana. Earlier we were whispering, sino kayang diwata of the head of the Philippine High School for the Arts? Thank you for that beautiful poem. And all of your kind words and testimonials of Junyi, of Anna, of Manong Frankie, of Chair June, will just inspire me to work even harder and better. I'd like also to introduce my father, who's 83 years old, a little bit younger than F. Shunil Jose, is also present here. So it is with great honor that I accept the Dangal ng Haraya Award today. Danny Dolor was a Dangal awardee. You are wearing your medal. Show it, Danny. Yeah. This award, while issued in my name, appropriately belongs to my late mother, who nurtured and influenced me to embrace the majesty of culture and the arts. My mother, Bessie Helia Bautista Legarda, sang operas. My father knows that. Sang operas in the bedroom and in our little sala. She collected art and studied art and was a person of culture. As a child in the 60s, I was surrounded by artists. Si Mendoza, Romulo Galicano, Ibarra de la Rosa, and national artists H.R. Ocampo and Mang Enteng. And I would wonder why my mother would take me when I was in my grade school and high school years all the way to Binangonan every weekend and bring adobo and just stay with them while talking to Mang Enteng. Much, much more and many more. I can't mention all the artists who I grew up with. People who, by their art, contributed to shaping our national identity. I was told that I started to be smitten with art and culture about the same time I learned to walk and speak because of the towering influence of my mother and our cultural friends. In fact, because of my keen admiration for Mang Enteng, Vicente Manansala, which were in our living and dining room, in between studying, I was a very studious student in Assumption, Iran, I would paint watercolor. And my cousins would always tease me and say, here's Loren again, walang sala. They would tease me because I wanted so much to be like Mang Enteng and to paint similar landscapes, seascapes, trees, etc. I would always be teased and bullied as a child. Such influence of my late mother led me to frequent museums, art spaces, and even homes, bedrooms of artists, familiarizing myself with both contemporary and modernist art. So deep was her influence that for a college thesis in 1981, while my major in UP Diliman was mass communications, my thesis was fine arts. I did a content analysis of Vicente Manansala's paintings during the martial law era. The mood and social concerns of the times were vividly captured by Manansala in his paintings. I said to myself then, and continue to be convinced at this time, that culture and the arts are the best communicators of history. Yes, I am a legislator, but I am foremost a perpetual student and steward of culture. I began my professional career as a young journalist at the age of 18, taking inspiration from my late grandfather, Jose P. Bautista, who was the editor-in-chief of the pre-martial law newspaper, Manila Times. Being a journalist provided me a vantage view to society's way of life, their practices, and accumulated knowledge and ideas, and how these are transformed to behaviors and interactions between and among people. I had a front seat to worldviews and to specific aspects of culture, such as language, kinship, music, traditions, and practices, including the physical expressions of culture, which we find in our architecture, the arts, and even technology. As a journalist, I saw the realities of crumbling societies and the passing away of some of our greatest generations. Through journalism, I testified on the harsh realities that beset societies, from the dark truth of child labor, the trafficking of and violence against women, the inequities in society, the destruction of cultures and the environment, the struggles of our indigenous communities, to name a few. And these were the same causes I espoused as a senator in 1998, and these were the laws I enacted to cure the ills of society I documented as a journalist. I witnessed how diversity can either divide or unite our country. In 1990, when I was much younger, the Inside Story, which I anchored and produced, went on air. It was an investigative program which brought me to the hinterlands. I slept with the Mangyans, I slept with the indigenous peoples in the Cordillera, I stayed with the Moro National Liberation Front, with the New People's Army, with the Abu Sayyaf, maybe the groups before the Abu Sayyaf, and to the most remote areas of the archipelago. I would also meet our indigenous peoples and to be educated in what we call the schools of living tradition. The Inside Story sought to elicit conversations to enrich national consciousness, strengthen our moral fiber, and help mold public opinion on contemporary and indigenous culture. We need to have more of these conversations because there is no way we could understand the richness of our culture, a culture that will unite us unless we discover and appreciate this. Niccolo Machiavelli, a Renaissance historian and philosopher you all know, said, and I quote, "When states are acquired in a country differing in language, customs, or laws, there are difficulties, and good fortune and great energy are needed to hold them," unquote. Our culture is our identity, and part of that identity is a complex and heterogeneous mix of cultures. Our different ethno-linguistic groups, each with a distinct heritage of traditions, dance, art, music, folklore, beliefs, value systems, make up the identity of the Filipino people. We cannot, however, subscribe to the Machiavellian principle that differences in language, customs, and laws divide people, making them difficult to hold together. On the other hand, and on the contrary, diversity breeds richness in our culture and heritage. Diversity brings everyone together for as long as there is understanding and respect, for as long as no one thinks he or she is superior or more deserving than the rest. Diversity should not be used as an instrument to divide. In 1998, I decided I can no longer just document the issues. I needed to help shape the story that will hopefully lead to a good ending for our country. More than 18 years after I first set foot in the Senate, the struggle for a shared sense of national identity continues. It is somewhat ironic that I accept the Dangal ng Haraya Award against the backdrop of an escalating social chaos brought about by narratives of hatred, political rancor, gender biases, violence, and social divisions. Direct attacks, killings, arrests, harassments, zoning, and vilification continue in lumad areas. This award only tells us we need to do more. Perhaps we need to do another Inside Story, but this time our stories need a proper ending. This puts in context the importance of the Dayaw TV series, which we continue to do with the National Commission on Culture and Arts and the ABS-CBN News Channel ANC. By understanding and appreciating our indigenous peoples and their culture, we can help strengthen the elements that tie our people together, as Anna said, the ties that bind our culture, our language, our history, our collective worth as a people. We have one of the youngest population demographics in the world, with a median age of 23 years. This is a great human resource, unequaled in importance, but they need to be nurtured and harnessed in ways that they become instruments of constructive change, a change that will bring us all together rather than divide us. Culture is what binds people, the public and living spaces, the beliefs and practices of people. Culture defines our soul as a people. Cultural considerations cannot anymore remain on the sidelines of policymaking. These need to be integrated in education, economic planning, urban and rural development, technological innovations, among others. It is for this reason that I have proposed the creation of a Department of Culture that will ensure the preservation, enrichment, and dynamic evolution of a Filipino national culture that is rooted in unity amidst our diversity. I do not know what kind of a journalist and legislator I would have been had it not been for the humanizing influence of my late mother and the home which my parents had nurtured me in, and the arts they dearly loved. Perhaps the stories I documented would have been less profound, and the legislation I sponsored less socially relevant. In the same token, Filipinos, without a collective appreciation of our culture, would have no shared understanding of our past, continue to be divided in the present, and will not have a shared vision for the future. A person without a keen sense of his or her culture simply will not care. This award speaks to all of us. It is a profound recognition that culture gives us a sense of belonging and is a source of knowledge and pride and creates our shared identity. It is therefore essential to our nation building. With that, I am forever grateful and humbled for this. Thank you very much.